Jolijn Creutzberg. Jolijn is founder of Van Hully. Van Hully makes boxer shorts, his and hers, from old dress shirts and blouses. And also not only reusing material, but helping women who have trouble re-entering the job market to have a job. And in January, Van Hully became runner-up in the People's Choice Award of the Circulars 2016 at the World Economic Forum in Davos. So that's a very, very big deal. And she's going to tell about her company and her social entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for listening to me already now. Yes, it sounds really impressive, the prize that I won. I can tell you that 3 years ago when I founded Van Hully, I've never expected it to get that far as to Davos. But well, let me start at the start. Like Aniek was saying, I don't know, did any of you know Van Hully before it was announced? Did you heard about it? Okay, good. That's always nice to know. Yes, Van Hully basically makes boxer shorts out of your worn out shirt, your favorite one that you don't want to throw away, or it's a sort of, you bought it and it's been too expensive to throw away but you never wear it. Some of the girls maybe have this experience. This idea came from my private life. My husband had a shirt, it was already 20 years ago I think, that we had this shirt that we bought in the United States at a holiday, and he was wearing it very often and it was worn out, the collar, but we had a nice memory of it and we didn't want to throw it away. He wears these wide boxer shorts, and I'm sort of handy with sewing, so I thought, well, why not make one out of that? And already then I thought, well, this is a nice idea, and if I think it's a nice idea, there are probably more people who would like this idea to pursue. But already the idea of sending in your own shirt and producing it makes it more or less obligatory to have the production done locally, and that is something that, you know, I was already an entrepreneur, but it was a sort of hard thing to organize in my head, and I was too busy with other assignments, so I just let it sleep and let it go. And then about 4 years ago, this again came in my head, and I had time enough on my mind to explore it further, and I started talking about it. And I think that's the first lesson that I would advise all of you. If you ever start something with a good idea, talk about it with a lot of people, because it gets you really further. That really helps. You can't keep it for yourself if you want it to grow. If you want to share it with other people, you have to, you know, share it with others. That means being vulnerable in a way, but I think that's my first advice to you all in being an entrepreneur. I started talking about it, and already I got the impression this is the right timing, and that was not something that was sort of idea that I studied on, and I was waiting for the right time. It just happened, and I don't know whether I have a real notes for it, or as I look back now, Van Hully is based on 3 very important pillars that are basically trends that are in this time frame very important. But let me start by showing you Van Hully's, because then you know why this is such a nice thing to have and to wear. Because this is the men's version. This is a boxer short made of a shirt. And one of the advices I got while talking about it was people saying you have to see the original shirt back into the boxer shorts that you're making. If not, you can as well make it from just fabric. And I don't know whether you see this, but this is part of the sleeve, the original sleeve. So you didn't know that your shirt was having 2 zippers, but it does. And then at the back we have this triangle, which is my answer to the Björn Borg. So if you guys are aware of Van Hully, you probably wear your jeans a little bit lower, and then you can show that you're wearing a real social, sustainable, personal hoodie. Okay? So this is my way of, and that's also the idea of the bright orange thing, because it's a very invisible product. That's not very smart of me probably, but that's why I added the bright orange. And then after a year, since we started, we introduced our female version, which is not underwear, as you probably can understand. This doesn't really wear very well under your pants, but it does sleep very well. And if it's made from a shirt from your boyfriend or your father or whoever, now that's up to you. See, that's one of the nice things. Ever since I went into this industry of underwear, it always makes people happy. But you know, this is the female version made out of your own shirt or a man's shirt, whatever. I'll pass it around because you have to feel how well it's made. Here you go. Just back to the basics of Van Hoodie. There are 3 pillars that are, I think, very important to address, because I think that's a part of why Van Hoodie is growing so fast. And these 3 pillars are the social, the sustainable, and the personal side of our product. And to start with the personal side, I imagine that you can understand that people basically don't send in just a shirt or a very cheap shirt. They send in a shirt that they are attached to, or that they really like the pattern, or they have a good memory on their holidays, or and that makes it a very personal product. It's your own fabric, you get it back, and there are some really nice stories behind the shirts that we get sent into, which is very nice for the ladies who make the shorts. For instance, what I didn't realize was we got, I think, already 6 times or so shirts from deceased husbands, from wives, and they didn't want to throw away the shirts because it was too personal and it felt like betrayal to throw them away. So they said, could you make boxer shorts for my kids? Which is a very nice thing, and it's very emotional for them, and it's still being used, which is nicer than just have it hanging in the closet and reminding you of your deceased husband. The personal part is also, and there's a very funny story as well, because usually the women who make them, they try to avoid the stains and the holes in the shirts. But then a shirt was sent in with a big mark of an ironing iron? An iron. Okay. And this lady said, "Could you please use this part on the back for my husband, because he was ironing himself, and then his cell phone rang and he forgot all about his shirt, so he got this boxer short with the iron pattern on his button." That was a funny story. The personal thing, we also answer that in a personal way, because we think that once you send in your shirt, you send something personal to us, we owe you to be personal to you as well. So our tone of voice is very informal, but also when you get your boxer shorts back, it's included, there's a small card which is filled in by one of the sewsters, the one who has at that moment checked all the quality parts of your boxer shorts. So she says her name and she signs it. She signs it with the date, and she also has a personal note like, good luck with it, or I like the fabric, or something like that. So that's the personal part. The sustainable part was the part that was less developed. I know recycling or upcycling your shirt is in a way being very sustainable, and that's very hot and happening. And it's also a trend that you can see in our society, that it's basically, especially in fashion, it's something that's becoming more and more, people are becoming more and more aware the sustainability of the products that they're buying. And I think when I had this idea first, like these 15 or 20 years ago, the whole second-hand thing was a sort of, grey area where not really very cool. And now it's called vintage, and everybody likes it, and it's very, very funny. So I think that's a trend that is that's really becoming more and more popular. And the personal side, I forgot to mention that I think that also attaches to a trend that you're seeing. I don't know whether you're aware of it, but a lot of products now have a story behind it, and people like the story behind it. I guess it's a sort of answer to our globalization, the whole thing, the internet, impersonal thing, that the idea that you know the maker, or there's something personal behind it, or you can tell a story about the shirt that you're wearing or the bag that you're using. I think people are really willing to share a story that they like. It has to be a true story, I'm convinced. I mean, I don't know whether you know the ABN AMRO bank. You probably know the ABN AMRO bank, but you probably have seen also their latest campaign that they're interested in. They ask you, what's your story? I think that's, for me, that's a bit a bridge too far. I mean, they're basically, I think, interested in your bank account, but not in the story of your family or anything. But apart from that, I think it is a trend. People are really looking for attachment to the products they buy or the services they get. So the sustainable part was not very well developed until I got this invitation from the circulars, which are awards on the circular economy and on circular enterprises like mine, and they asked me to enter this prize category, and I was sort of hesitant. I didn't know whether I would enter this, and so I asked around, and somebody said to me, well, you should just do it, if not just for the publicity. It always, generates some publicity, so why not? And then I got elected as a nominee for the, as one of the 11 for the People's Choice Award, and then I was second, and the first and the second one could go to Davos. So that was very funny, and that was very strange, because in the eyes of others, whereas we never did something other from one day to the next, but then in the eyes of others, immediately you are a level higher. You're a sort of potential partner. You are taken more seriously. The press is around you, and that's very funny to realize. And it's also very nice for the company as well, because that every publicity generates orders for us, and we need orders in order to be able to exist. The last pillar is the social one, which makes me a social entrepreneur, and that's a term I didn't know when I started Van Hully, and now it seems like it's a sort of becoming a hype. And I think the social enterprise or the social entrepreneurship is something that we should discuss, and I should tell you my vision, and you could maybe react on that one. What makes me a social entrepreneur is the fact that the women who make your boxer short, they have a hard time finding a job. They don't have work experience, they don't have qualifications, and we provide both. We get them for a year within our company. They're not our employees, by the way. They do their work experience with us, and they and alongside that they work 16 hours a week, and alongside that they go to school. It's a day and a half. They go to school, and it's a sort of entrance education. I don't know for the Dutch. It's a sort of substitute for the VMBO. So from that they can move on to other levels of education. For these women, it's basically the first time they get their diploma at the end of the year, the first time in their lives. And I think it helps them further, but it also helps them in their self-esteem, You see them growing from sort of shy women coming in our company, and the fact that they have a sort of responsibility, they have structure in their lives, they go to school together. It's one class with 12 women, and they all go together at the same time to the same school in the same class. And I think that the whole combination works very well. And social entrepreneurship or social enterprise, in a very strict definition, should get should get the money basically from the product or the service they provide, which means, and that's what I really like about social entrepreneurship, is that it's a social side, but it's also entrepreneurial in the sense that you have to have a market for it. It's not a social workshop in a way that we're, keeping people busy doing things that really nobody cares about. But the fact that you have a product that you need to sell or a service that you need to sell is something that is really essential in the social entrepreneurship, and that's what I like about it, because it makes you much more of an entrepreneur than a social worker, because I'm not a social worker. But the social part is a very it's in the DNA of the company, and I think that is what a social enterprise is different from a regular enterprise, because there's a lot of social people who have an enterprise, and they care about their people, and they care about maybe taking in some people because of diversity or because they want to help handicapped people. But if it's not in the DNA of your company, I don't think you should not speak of it as a social enterprise, because that is really something different. You can be a social entrepreneur in the sense that you're a social person and you have an enterprise, but that's something different. There's a strict definition on when a social enterprise is called a social enterprise in European terms, which means that you should be for the maximum of 25 or 30% subsidized, and the rest should come from your what's it called? Omzet? Revenue. It should come from your revenue. So the subsidy part, for me, I'm not yet there. I'm working on it, but it's more or less the other way around now, where a part of the subsidy that I get is from the municipality, the gemeente Groningen. They give me money to be able to guide these women through their education, because when I started with this educational part, which wasn't there in the beginning, I said, well, I think the combination is better than just having a working experience, because that doesn't really help. If I combine it with an education, I think we're doing a much better job. And they believed me, so they said, okay, for every woman you take in, you get money from us, and with that money I could get someone who is more trained as a social worker, and she guides these women through the year that they are doing their education. They have to do assignments within our workshop, and she has to talk to the school and all these sorts of things. Because I said, well, I think it helps combining it with the education, but I can't do it myself, because I have to do sales, marketing. At least I have to sell things in order to help these women. So they agreed. I get that. That's a part of the money that I would count to the 30%. That would be a sort of structural subsidy for me, because I think in essentially that is also a sort of service that I provide for the municipality. I will come back to that later, because for that part I'm measuring my social impact. But then there's still a gap. Say there's a gap that I still need money for, and that is a sort of incidentally subsidies that I get from foundations. Like the Stichting Doen, I don't know whether you know the postcode lottery. That's a large company, and they are a large lottery, and they have a special foundation that is that is focusing on social enterprises. So they help me through the overhead that I partly cannot get from the revenues from the boxer shorts. And it's getting better. I have a business plan and all that, so we're moving towards a nice division of the 70 revenue and the 30 subsidy, but I'm not yet there. Now for the subsidies I get, I don't know whether you are very entrepreneurial oriented, but I don't believe in free money, not even from the municipality. So I think it's my job as an entrepreneur to prove to the gemeente Groningen that I'm worth their money. So I have to prove to them that for my part it would be best to reckon everything into euros in the effects that I have, the impact that I make on a social level. And even though there are some people who say, okay, you should measure other values, for me at this time, and especially I think for the government, it's easier to be able to say, okay, with every euro you put into my company, you get 1.15 back or something like that, because that's a good return on investment. Now, I think that is a very, very nice, and for me also, it's given me a lot of insight, this method of measuring your social impact. I'm not there yet because last August we started for the first time with a completely new group, because the group before that was partly already there when we started the education. But you can imagine that some of these values are very easily measured. If I would be able to get one woman completely independent and in a full-time job, for instance, in the ideal world, that's easily measured because you save the municipality on the allowance she gets and all the overhead costs, but also by having a full-time job she gives taxes to on a national level. But it's also the soft things that are very important, and I think on that part there's a lot to be done, but already a lot is known on, for instance, less care costs if you have a structured life, and it's very it's hard to measure it in euros, but we're getting there closer, and there's a lot of research being done on social enterprises and the impact they do. So hopefully we'll be better and better to prove what we are worth as social enterprises. But already through the interviews that I had, especially with the women and also with the children of these women, that's very impressive. Like the women, the children, for instance, when you ask them, and you have to imagine a lot of these women are on their own. They came to Groningen. Sometimes they flee from their homes or from their husbands and went to what's it called? Blijf mijn lijf huis. You know, for women, safe home, safe house. Yeah, well, something like that. You know, where they want to be away from all these horrible men. No, but you have to imagine that they're most of the women are on their own with small children, and they have been on the couch, you know, since ever they got to Groningen, and then they got this chance. They work 16 hours a day and a half they go to school, so they're barely at home during the week. For the children, that's a huge impact. But all the children that I asked, and having them compare, say, okay, well, I know it's not, you know, all very positive that your mom is away so much. So if you would have the choice, just, you know, without any prejudices, if you would have the choice whether your mom would be at home or whether she would work with Van Hully and go on with her schooling, they all say no, she should do this. This is good for her future. And because we're having a lot of immigrant women, you see that these children, they're sort of, they see their mother lagging behind, and now that they go to school, these women, their Dutch improves, they understand the school of their children much better. But also, these children understand that there will be a time that they have to leave their mother alone. And that is why they are really very enthusiastic about Van Hully. And that is something that is really, that's really impressive to hear. And they get support from their own children, basically. And there's a nice little story about one of the children, one of the boys, a Turkish boy that I interviewed. And his mom was always constantly too late in the morning. She was working 2 mornings a week. Thank you. When I offered her also to enter the school, she said yes. And I said, well, do you know what you're saying? Because that's 16 hours and you have to work and you have to go to school. And she said, no, I'm going to do it. And she did. And she got her diploma. And her boy told me that, he said, yeah, my mother is very busy in the morning. She has a hard time being on time everywhere. I said, yes, I know, I noticed. And he said, no, well, now every morning when my mother goes to work with you, I make her sandwiches. And then you have to realize that's a huge impact. I don't know how we're going to measure this, but it's a huge impact because it means this Turkish boy, his father was far away and he never had contact with. That's a sort of role model that is really impressive. So I hope we will be there in the end to show that for the free money, it's not free, but it's worth your investment as a government. And for the other part, we'll have it all from the revenues from a fantastic boxer short that you're all going to order after tonight.
Yeah.
That was it. And now your questions.
Do you pay for those old second-hand T-shirts?
Do I pay for the old
T-shirts where you produce the box?
No, it basically people send in the shirt and
Yeah.
you get your own shirt back. So we don't
Yeah, okay.
we don't pay you for sending. You pay us for making it.
And what is it?
The price.
Yeah.
Well, the price normally is $27.50, including the cost of sending it.
But we got entrepreneurship account, so.
And you have a 10% discount if you hand in your shirt tonight. Or you can buy a voucher also for the same price. But it's $27.50, which I think is a fair price. It's it's handmade and with love.
I was wondering, so
Yes.
when you use a whole shirt and make a boxer shirt out of it, there's quite some parts of the shirt that are left over.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think. But
No?
no, it's well, without going into the big details, but there's a lot of fabric in a boxer short like this, and it has to do with this part, this round part here, and so no, if we do it really well, we sometimes have only this part that's left, and we save that. And we've made lunch bags for the TEDx conferences, for instance, and we save them all. The bigger parts we save, yeah. So, yeah, but it's not enormous amounts of fabric. You can't make 2 out of 1. No. Anyone else?
Can you make one for the girl from them?
I'm sorry?
You make the girl shirts smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, they're also smaller shirts. So they're sending in. Yeah. We do mix it with Valentine's Day. Also very nice. I don't believe I have been that clear. There must be more questions. Yes. Yes. Now there's only one workshop, and that's in Groningen. I'm working on a second workshop, opening one. But this is also a very strategic question, because the fact that you send in your shirt means you have to have a post box there where the shirts are made.
Yeah.
So it's a bit difficult to say, okay, well, I'm in Amsterdam, so I send it into Amsterdam. But for now, we can manage the amount of orders we have every day. And but also we noticed that, especially for younger people, it's not that important to send in your own shirts. So we are now considering on opening a workshop somewhere else where women can make boxer shorts on stock from second-hand shirts. So there will be a sort of button on our website that you can say, okay, surprise me, I'm there, I want one. And I think that has to do with the fact that our social story has become so much stronger that when we go to exhibitions or festivals, people just want to buy our promotional material. And that's why we thought, well, maybe we should open just the idea of making boxer shorts on stock. And then there's also a whole other side that I'm working on connections with the clothing industry, those who make shirts like McGregor or Sissy Boy, to get their overstock and then make them and bring them back as Van Hully's, powered by H&M or you know. So that's something that could be done somewhere else.
When you're right, it probably is difficult to have them send in and send out if you have in different locations in the same country. But do you think about, for example, going to Belgium or to Germany or to sort of close by, because opening up? Do you get a lot of international shirts as well right now, or is it most of it still Dutch?
Most of it is still Dutch, but the prize has given me a lot more international attention. And that's also the location where we're going to set up our second workshop will be close to the German border, because I think Germany is also a very good market. It's a huge market as well, but it's a good market because they're very into recycling, and I think the price will be less of a problem as well. And then you could easily do a pilot near the border, and you can open a postfach in Germany, have people send it in Germany, and then make it next to the border in Holland, and then when it's a success you can open a workshop in Germany. So that's basically the steps that I'm taking now. So hopefully that will be done in 2016. It's one of my projects. Yeah, but you're right, it's easier to do the same product in this example. For me, it's easier to do the same product with the same formula in a bigger market than to do other products in the same market. You see, because it would be impossible for the women to make 6 articles in the workshop when they're only there for a year and they haven't been selected on their sewing capacities. So it has to be simple. So that's why I think that's a very good question. Yes?
How many requests do you receive per month?
I'm sorry?
How many requests do you receive per month? Or how many shirts?
Oh, how many shirts? Yes, we're now close to 200 a month. Yeah. Yeah. And the nice thing is we had an intern that she did a research on our new clients and what they do. About 40% stay clients, so they come back, and some of them, they once they have a shirt, they send it in. They want a boxer short, so some of them have already ordered 10 times. So, and that's what I want. I want people to have it. I don't want you to have drawers full of Van Hully's. It's just that if you have a really nice shirt, I want you to think, okay, I can do something with it, because it gives you an extra dimension. Yes.
I like your idea a lot.
Thank you.
But I'm thinking in my head whether you have an idea for when the boxer shorts wear off.
I think there is a time when even Van Hully's die. You have to order a new one.
Yeah.
Because they fit perfectly. I don't know. I don't think you want to have a handkerchief out of it.
Yeah. Do you have any
for the consumer market, I would like to do that. We're still growing. I still meet people that have never heard of Van Hully, even in Groningen, which is amazing because I had such a lot of publicity. I thought, people are sort of overkilled with my story, but I think there's a lot. We've done our market research, and there's a lot of market still there. And as I said earlier, it's really a very big decision to have other products to go and produce other products with the same women. But we had the first group of women had their diploma last June, and some of them have streamed into a sort of social cooperation, and other products will be made there. So probably there will be a sort of it's not really a Van Hully workshop, but some of the women will work there, and if I got an idea, I could test it there. But it's not my main focus right now. No. Yeah.
How do you promote your product?
That's a good question. We have we basically rely a lot on social media. We're very active on Twitter and on Facebook. I try to post a picture every day on Instagram, and Marije, you have to make a picture because I didn't do it today. Every day. Yeah, that helps, and we're very keen on how we're found, what search things, and on the offline marketing, we're quite active on presentations like this help, of course. Service clubs, invited a lot to speak in service clubs, and then I ask people to bring in their shirts, and that helps. We're also doing exhibitions, and also we have a sort of mobile version of our workshop, which is basically an IKEA table that you fold out, and it has machines that you can carry. And so we sit at the ABN AMRO headquarters next to the canteen, and then when it's communicated well, people can give their shirts at that moment. It's not made live there because the machines are not that well as the ones that we have in our workshop, but that helps a lot, and if it's communicated very well, then that's a very good way of showing what we're doing. We take 2 seamsters with us, and then we sit there for a whole day, and people hand in their shirts. We take them back to Groningen and then send them to the headquarters back. So, and if a company is very enthusiastic, sometimes they give a discount and all that. So yeah.
How long does it take, like on average, from the shirt to the finished boxer short?
Well, we say on our website it takes 5 working days, and we're now actually a bit too busy, so we're mailing our clients that sometimes we're not able to do that, and it's very nice, speaking of the personal side that we have and the informal communication that we use. People say, well, that's good news. You're busy, that's good news, no problem. So, but now we're catching up. So because we've been closed for a week, so that doesn't really help with the 5 days. But yes, it takes 5 days, but basically making a boxer short takes an hour and a half if everything's done well. So once we've catched up, we can do basically all the orders the day or the next day. You have to take into account that the workshop is not open every day, of course, because the women go to school. Yeah.
How much sewing are you still doing?
We have 12.
I mean, you yourself, how much are you still working on sewing, and how much management do you have?
I'm not sewing anything. No. I think it's better also. I had the idea, but the quality is much better by the women that do it. So yeah, no, I know how to sew, but that well that they do it. I don't. There's a woman who teaches them how to make them. Yeah. And your other question was how much hours do I work on the rest? Yeah. No, the rest is no. I'm basically doing the rest with my stuff.
Do you worry about competitors?
That's a good question. No, I don't really worry about it. I think there's a lot of boxer shorts, of course, in the market. There's even a Groningen competitor on the market. He's Pockies, it's called. But it's such another idea, and I think what I do with the combination of the social and the sustainable and the personal thing of your own shirt, it doesn't exist, and I don't think anyone will copy it very easily, because that would be such a copy thing, you know. And also, if it's copied in China, I'm really big, so so I'm not worried about that. But it's a good point that you asked, because coming back to the start, I said with the advices on entrepreneurial, what to do as an entrepreneur, and if you have a good idea. I was very worried before I started that I would be copied, and of all the discussions I had when I said, I want to start this, and people said, oh well, that's a great idea, and you should call this one, and you should talk to him or her. There has been one or two people I met, and I thought, well, that doesn't really feel right. I had one discussion with a guy who was very big into a recycling firm, and he says, well, I'm jealous. That was his first reaction when he saw the boxer short, and I thought, well, this is not good news. And I had a very bad sleep that night. And the next day I called somebody, and she said, it's the same as I said at the start. If you should just keep on talking about it, because there will always be people who are keen on copying you, but if you don't speak about your product or your idea, it will never get further. And I think that's a very good advice, and I took it, and I'll give it to you, because basically I think sharing your knowledge is something that is really important, and you can really be very scared about being copied or having competitors, but I believe in your own force and your own power. This is so much me that nobody else can do this. Even if you want to copy it, you will never have the passion that I have, because I thought of it first. And I think if you have a good idea, you should never be worried about that. And the sharing is also the daring, because it's sort of scary. But I think once you're able to share your ideas, you will get a lot back. It's a question of trusting the other one. And if people misuse that, I'm convinced they won't get as far as you. And I may be a very positive and idealistic person, but I've come very far since then. And I think I believe really that works. And that's also something I get out of it. I mean, yes, I now have a sort of small salary out of this, but I started, and it has taken me a lot of energy, and it has taken me a lot of time, but I have really never done something so rewarding as this, because it's the idea, the commercial idea is working. It's very, really gives a good feeling when you know that your product is serving a market that's growing and people are very enthusiastic about it. And on the other hand, there's a huge reward in seeing these women grow. And so for me, that balance is really something that's really nice. And I think social entrepreneurship will grow in that way, because I think your generation and the generations to come will be much more looking for jobs, looking for work that are, in a way attached to the product, that there's some sort of, what's it called? Then there's some sort of idea behind it. And it doesn't have to be never for the money, because you know I want to make a profit. It just takes a little longer, and but I would really wish you would all have this experience, because it's really nice to have the feeling that you contribute in a way to society, and also get your entrepreneurial skills, you know, to the max. That's really that's a really good combination, and it works. I think it's the future. Yeah.
What are your inputs so far, financial and others? In this
Personal?
Yeah, personal inputs. Yeah.
Well, I had before I started, I had a private loan. I lent money from my mother, and that was basically because I didn't have the patience to wait for subsidies for foundations to enter me. And I know that's a luxury thing. I don't think everybody is in the position that, you know, mom is saying, okay, here's your money, and it wasn't that much. But a lot of goodwill also was very valuable, because I had a lot of friends and they said, this is such a great idea, I'm going to help you. And I have thanked them with a 1% in my company. But that was also, for instance, the guy that made my logo, that has all the printing work, well, without the printing, but the designing work. He said, this is a fabulous idea. Once you know you're earning enough, I will send you an invoice, but for now I'm going to help you. And that is something else, you know, in trusting people and in telling about your product and your ideas, you get so much back. And that's incredible. That's really nice. So it's not really about the money, because that's something else. These foundations, they found me. That was very funny. Once I started the Stichting Doen, which is a large foundation, the one of the postcode lottery, they sent me an email and saying, well, we saw you went online with a web shop, and that's very nice, and can we help you? And I thought, well, when the foundations are emailing me, it must be a nice idea. And I think the fact that I showed them that I was willing to take risks by, you know, privately making it professional without any help, I think that helps also to get more money out of them. And by the time they said, can we help you? I said yes, because I was already, you know, encountering a lot of problems in online marketing and things that I didn't know. But I think that is something that's also nice, that once you're on track, you get all these things that you never asked for, but they help and they come your way when you're really passionate about what you do.
Maybe encourage further questions during the drink. I would like to thank you so much for your talk.